Hello, welcome to Severna. So recently we have developed the nuclear industry in Severna with a uranium refinery facility and the island's first nuclear power plant, which will be going on to replace oil as the island's main source of energy. So at the moment, just to test it out, I've been running it now for about a month of game time, and I think that everything is pretty stable with it. Everything is fine. We're producing enough energy. I do need to start getting rid of the nuclear waste now, which I'll show you how I do that. And also I want to start switching over from our oil power plants, because at the moment, just so I could test things with it and make sure it was working correctly, I haven't really switched over the grid. I haven't really provided any of Severna's energy needs with this nuclear power plant. All it has been doing so far is producing energy for export. So we are exporting it via a high voltage undersea cable which connects to eastern nations via this connection here. I don't currently have a western connection for this, so just to give you a quick overview of what you see here. So here we've got the uranium mine, which mines the basic uranium ore. So then it sends that through these conveyor belts here and drops them into these uranium processing factories, which are basically just very big, very powerful, very advanced centrifuges that essentially draw out the heavy uranium. I'm gonna have to quickly look it up. It's like uranium 237 or something, but it's right. So they take the uranium ore and convert it into uranium oxide, which is then sent to these two facilities here, one per unit. So there's no workers over there because I'm not running this one because I just don't need it. I'm producing enough nuclear fuel, more than enough, with just the one. So for the time being, this facility's been mothballed. So it will send it through to the uranium conversion plant, which converts it into UF6, which stands for something like uranium oxide fluoride 6, or the 6 definitely stands for a 6 and the U definitely stands for uranium, but I think the S, it's like fluoride or something like that. Anyway, I'm not a nuclear engineer, I'm just playing a game. So so then that sends the UF6 into a nuclear fuel fabrication or a nuclear bomb manufacturing, but so just nuclear fuel fabrication, so that is at 100%. So then the nuclear fuel gets taken from, it's mixed, both of these facilities both use chemicals. That does not, but the uranium conversion plant and the uranium fuel fabrication plant both need chemicals as well, and they're delivered to the site via train, and then some trucks pick them up from there and deliver them into there. So then the nuclear fuel gets delivered to the nuclear power plant, and there we go. That's the end of it. So also though, these facilities, they can't just operate on their own, they do need additional infrastructure. So the water that these facilities use and the water that goes into the nuclear reactor and the boiler essentially of the nuclear power plant gets produced here at the water plant. So it's a grind well here, pumped into here, cleaned and refined. I suppose you don't really refine water, do you? Because you don't end up with more water than when, you know what I mean, it cleaned. Then that is then sent across the facility, and then once that water has been used, it then needs to get processed back into clean water from dirty nuclear ridden water, and then that gets pumped cleanly into the North Sea. However, as said, this is producing nuclear waste. So we will build a port to export that away somewhere else, so the people of Severna and its children don't need to deal with the nuclear fuel. We'll just depend on some other country to do that, like countries do in the real world, as awful as it is. But nowadays, with technology that we have, we can make nuclear waste extremely as safe as nuclear waste can be. I always think that at least with nuclear waste, as bad as it can be if things go wrong with it, but let's say it's stored pretty stably, and even if things do go wrong with it, it's in one place. Like, it's terrible for that place, wouldn't be very good, but it's in one place. Whereas from fossil fuel burning, that pollution goes everywhere and affects everywhere, because it's affecting. I'm not getting political. Anyway, I'm a big nuclear fan. I do think that the future is nuclear power. As dangerous as it is, everything's fucking dangerous. So do you know what I mean? But I think that changing the actual climate of our planet is a lot scarier than the risk of a nuclear accident that we could probably clean up and would correct itself within a few thousand years at absolute worst. Whereas if we bugger up the climate and all the methane that's been stored under the permafrost, it's not the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide that we're producing, that's just the starting gun. Okay, the actual real risk is the planet warms up via carbon dioxide just a little bitty bit. All of that permafrost under Russia is going to melt, which most people will think, yes, so what's bad about that? Well, the last time that the ice age happened, it's called the Andrea Dryas, right? And what was weird about it is it happened really quickly, right? So all of the life that was in northern Siberia, that was living in this nice sort of mild period, died all at the same time, and then froze. Okay, so you add all of this, so you've got basically an entire continent's worth of life that's frozen a few inches or maybe a foot or so underneath the soil in the northern Siberia, and I'm sure northern Canada as well, locked in ice. Okay, and then the climate sort of wobbled a bit for a few thousand years, so it'd warm up a little bit and then freeze again, and then warm up a little bit and then freeze again, and then warm up a bit again. So every time this happened, you got this layer of dead life, like a big layer cake of dead frozen things. Okay, so they're all frozen. If we warm up the planet, the ice is going to melt, and all of that is going to rot, and then all of the little bugs and fungus and all of that stuff that, and bacteria that eats all that stuff is going to excrete. I think it's called excretion, it's saying. Methane, the nasty smelling gas that we fart out when our body is breaking down and digesting things, which is exactly what's going to happen to all of that life that is under the permafrost, or all of that dead matter. Okay, methane is, I've not got the figures in front of me, but I think it is something like 100 times more efficient at doing global warming, or climate change. But I think with methane, it would be defined as global or warming, because warming would make it wouldn't be climate change. It wouldn't be like we've got at the moment, things slightly change, but it would be absolutely disastrous, because then if we really start warming stuff up, which would happen if all that methane, we then unlock all the methane that's trapped under the oceans. All the stuff that dies in the sea, it just drifts down, and then if it doesn't get eaten, it ends up just lying next. It's very little oxygen, okay, very little oxygen at the bottom of the ocean, especially like the really deep parts, okay. There is like life hither and thither, and when a big whale falls or something like that, life finds it and it breaks it down and eats it. But that's not always happening for all of the kabillions and kathillions of little things that live in the ocean that are dying. So you've got all of this methane that's trapped under the oceans. At the moment, the bottom of the sea, even if we warm like the climate a little bit up at sea level, that's really deep down there, okay? So that's going to stay pretty cold as long as things don't go too far, okay? But if we release all that methane that's like in the permafrost, that unlocks that massive supply, and then things are like, you know, up until recently I thought like climate change was bad and it was gonna, you know, be pretty tough for human civilization, but nature would sooner or later nature would recover. We might not be around in our current form, but nature would recover, the planet would go on and go, oh my god, I'm glad I got over that cold. Whereas if like we melt the methane and it all releases out in the atmosphere, but like literally that's the end of the actual Earth. We will turn into a Venus, maybe not as hot as Venus for the benefit from not being as close to the sun, and I don't think that we have enough methane to build the kind of atmosphere that Venus has, but still it may, you know, I'm not saying that life itself would be wiped out from planet Earth, because it really has gone through some really bad things, but it would, to the naked eye, Earth would look dead, and I don't want that to happen, right? You know, this planet's been around for, so I really, you know, even if, you know, right, I'm gonna have to cut this out of the video because this is like I'm gonna put this as like a separate video because this is an entirely tangent. So, but yeah, I'm a big fan of nuclear power because it at least buys us a few centuries before we run out of uranium. But hopefully, by then, you know, we would have found another source of it, or we would have really developed space-based solar power or fusion power or something like that. That's all I've got to say. All right. We really are standing on the edge of a cliff here, guys. But anyway, moving on back to the video. So, Soviet Republic, Severna, welcome. Okay, so at the moment then, I'm just producing power for export, which isn't very much at the moment, I don't think. So it's 18 megawatts we are exporting at the moment. And the potential of the power plant is 9,360 megawatts hours of power. So we are only running at 18% at the moment. So before I put any more, because the more power you generate, the more nuclear waste we are going to generate. So until we've got a system in place to handle that nuclear waste, I'm going to keep it at just that. I want to do a couple of little experiments now. I've never, I don't think, did shift and click to upgrade the power cables. I don't think I've ever done that, so I'm going to try that and just upgrade this line that's running to the city, to the developed part along this road. Oh, this is a little tip, by the way. I'm really sorry. It was literally years ago that I watched a YouTube video where a guy was doing something very similar to this, funny enough, and he said, "Oh, always run your power lines diagonally along the roads because you use about 10% of the power lines." Because if you're like me, I was very, very, very happy when they introduced underground infrastructure into the game, because the absolute spider web of power lines that you used to have crisscrossing the city, and when you zoom out, they just look like, to me anyway, they just look like a load of black hair over everything. Oh, I used to hate them. I used to think that was the worst part of the game, and so luckily very, very, very early on they corrected that. I think it was in one of the first major patches that came out, it was really early on in the game. However, so before that time, in the long ago, I was watching a video that all rhymed, and this guy was like, yeah, make sure that you always put your power lines along roads, because you'll use half the amount, and you really do. And I think it looks far more realistic. Just as an example here, because obviously of the developments, I've had to run the lines on one side of the road. Look at that. Look at that. So just I'm literally going to do an experiment now. So the distance between these is, so through the air, which is what we'll judge the other ones on, is 97.34 meters. Let's say 100 meters. Say 100 meters. Okay. And this one is, which one? That one. Let's say this one is from here. My fault. From here to here. Wow. Look at that. 389 meters, nearly 4 times as much distance between them. And it's not a fluke, because then if we go to just do a little, just so straighten in it, just taking in the count. Oh, what are you doing? $810. 1 kilometer. See, it's weird. So if you can, line them up along the road. So one of the things that I'm thinking now is that I'm gonna probably build another road coming this way, and another road, or actually, yeah, I'll just put the power line along the railway lines, and I'll power the steel mill, etc. off, because that's very power hungry, and then I will slowly start switching over the rest of the cities. I don't want obviously any interruptions of power for the Severnans. So let's put that. Okay, I'm just sorry. I never really plan out these videos. I am trying to get in the habit of it, but so what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a port here. I'm going to expand this avenue all the way out to here, so then we've got a road that literally is crossing this entire southern plain, and then I'm going to build a road coming off there and a road coming off there going down to here, and then I can, this road should more or less bring me straight to where, I mean, that is, maybe I subconsciously design things where this sort of thing happens, but yeah, that's really convenient actually, because there are the main power stations, not the first, but this side of the city just ended up being way more power thirsty, whereas this is our original plant here. So that's at 70. So all our oil plants at the moment are at 75%, 51%, 77%. So we're not quite up to our limit yet, and we do have obviously the unlocked power of the nuclear power plant, but the nuclear power plant is over here, and obviously the customers, the downstream is here. So what I need to do is make sure that that every line that comes out of these power stations has been replaced in one way or another by the Pine Ridge nuclear power plant. But I don't think this one singular plant will be enough to provide, because these oil plants, these whack out, so that's 2,400, so that's so 3, so 4,800, so 6,000, it's like 7,000, just say 7,000 megawatts for all of that. So actually, yeah, it can, and I'll still have 2,000 megawatts to spare. Oh no, I won't, I'm lying, because I've got auxiliary power plants. 1 second, let me just take a look at those. I think they produce 400 megawatts each, but I do have a lot of them, because they tend to exist where they're a high demand facilities. So yes, there's one here, so that's at 56%, so say 300 megawatts, 300 megawatts, 400 megawatt, no, 600 megawatts. Right, it says a lot. So yeah, so I think that that power plant will be enough to switch over. But in the meantime, we need to do quite a bit of construction here. I need to double this core. So we'll put this other reactor here on the other side. I'll mirror that so that the footpaths stick out on this side of the facility. Right, so that's our nuclear power plant planned. So the station's here, so we want to have it as the least amount of distance between them. So diagonal is our friend. I'll just line it up there. And then we will also upgrade this road. Right, so that's phase one, and now we are building our port. Will need to be a container port, as the nuclear waste caskets are classed as vehicles, so you'll need to make sure that you build a container port, as they won't unload at the standard docks, just so you know. This is Westport. Get rid of cousin shard name. We will extend that avenue. Remove gridlocks. It does when I don't, except for when it doesn't. Also connect this to rail so I can begin exporting vehicles more efficiently. So we need this one road jutting up north to carry one power line. We'll have probably a couple of above ground lines and several underground lines, but the underground lines, their voltage capacity isn't as much, so do bear that in mind. But it's not much less. So we'll just wait for that truck to go over those railway lines there, because chances are it will crash. Oh my god, that's not been connected the whole time. I always wondered why okay, never mind. Oh dear, we're only 20 years into the Republic. Okay.
On the present and not where the end is. Just follow where the wind blows and go where nobody knows. It'll be picture perfect. Come on, you know it's worth it. Just let it all go. Yeah, go with the flow. I guess I learned my lesson. I see that you're a blessing. I think that it's time that I finally quit messing around. On the present and not where the end is. Just follow where the wind blows and go where nobody knows. It'll be picture perfect. Come on, you know it's worth it. Just let it all go. Yeah, go with the flow.
Hang on there, that's way too close. Okay, so sorry, I've got a bit distracted here. So we've got our container dock ready to be constructed now, along with the nuclear power plant as well. So I've upgraded all the main sort of freeway across Severna, and the nuclear power plant is coming along swimmingly as well. So thank you very much for watching today. I will be uploading another video in the next couple of days about Severna switching over to the nuclear power plant as its primary power source, but that will be in the next few days. So thank you very much for watching today, and have a good one. Thank you. Bye bye.